Writing. The morning sun spilled through the glass walls of Cartertech Australia as employees hurried to their desks. Daniel Carter, a quiet single father, walked through the lobby carrying his worn toolbox and a lunch prepared by his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Since losing his wife 5 years earlier, Daniel had lived only for two things: his daughter and his work. He never complained, never argued, and never asked for recognition. Everyone knew him as the man who stayed late, solved impossible problems, and quietly went home before anyone noticed. But that morning was different. The company's new CEO, Richard Hayes, had called an emergency meeting. Hundreds of employees gathered in silence while Richard stood confidently on the stage. "We are removing people who no longer bring value to this company," he announced. Then he looked directly at Daniel. "You. Step forward." Confused, Daniel slowly walked through the crowd. Richard smirked. "For years you've hidden behind loyalty while producing average work. Effective immediately, you're fired." The room became silent. Daniel tried to explain that he had completed every major project on time, but Richard interrupted. "Security will escort you out." Embarrassed before everyone he had worked beside for years, Daniel simply nodded. He picked up the framed photo of Lily from his desk, thanked his coworkers for their friendship, and quietly walked out of the building. No shouting, no threats, no anger, just silence. Many employees felt guilty, but nobody dared challenge the CEO. Outside, Daniel sat inside his old pickup truck. He stared at Lily's smiling picture and whispered, "Everything will be okay." Then he made one phone call. "Hello, it's time." Nothing more. No explanation. No emotion. He ended the call. Exactly 30 minutes later, everything changed. Inside Cartertech, computers suddenly froze. Trading accounts were suspended. Investors began flooding customer service with questions. Company lawyers rushed through the hallways carrying stacks of documents. Richard shouted, "What's happening?" The chief financial officer entered the boardroom, his face completely pale. "Our largest investors have withdrawn." "What? They're selling every share." Richard laughed nervously. "Impossible." Before anyone could answer, another executive burst into the room. "Our government contracts have been suspended pending investigation." The room fell silent. Phones rang non-stop. Stock prices collapsed minute by minute. News channels reported unexpected financial irregularities discovered during an independent audit requested by the company's original founders. Richard screamed for answers. Then the company's oldest board member quietly entered. His expression said everything. "We have a serious problem." "What now?" Richard demanded. The elderly man looked directly into his eyes. "You fired Daniel Carter." Richard rolled his eyes. So you fired the man who legally controls the Carter family trust." Richard froze. "What trust?" The board member placed a thick folder on the table. 20 years ago, Daniel's late father founded this company with 3 partners. When he died unexpectedly, his ownership was transferred into a protected family trust for Daniel and his future children. Daniel never used his power because he believed honest work mattered more than titles. Nobody spoke. The board member continued. Without Daniel's approval, several executive decisions violated shareholder agreements. Richard slowly stepped backward. No. The phone call Daniel made activated the trust's emergency protection clause. Every illegal executive action was automatically reported to regulators, investors, and independent auditors. Nothing could stop it. Within hours, emergency trading was halted. Television reporters filled the streets outside headquarters. Employees watched helplessly as security escorted senior executives from the building. Richard desperately tried calling Daniel. Again and again. No answer. Late that evening Daniel arrived home. Lily ran into his arms. "Daddy, you're early." He smiled. "The best part of my day is always coming home to you." She handed him a drawing of the two of them holding hands beneath a bright rainbow. "We'll always be okay," she said. Daniel hugged her tightly. Across town, Richard sat alone inside an empty office watching the company's value disappear from every financial screen. For the first time in his career, he realized success built on arrogance never lasts. The next morning Daniel received an invitation from the remaining board members. They asked him to become the company's new chairman. Daniel thought quietly before answering. "I'll return on one condition. Anything. No employee will ever be humiliated again. Every worker deserves respect, whether they're a cleaner, mechanic, engineer, or executive." The board unanimously agreed. Months later Cartertech became stronger than ever. Employees were treated fairly. Families came first. Profits returned. Trust returned. And every new manager learned the same lesson on their first day. Respect people before judging their position. Because the quietest person in the room may be carrying responsibilities far greater than anyone can imagine. Daniel never celebrated revenge. He celebrated justice. Every evening he still drove the same old pickup truck home to Lily. Money had never made him rich. Love had. And that was the one thing no company, no CEO, and no amount of power could ever take away.